uh, on Wednesday morning of last week, November the 9th, with a heavy heart. And it seems that something should be said. And I'm certain that I was not alone in my feelings of dismay and disappointment. So as I sat on the side of my bed, I decided I would write a few words to members of my church and send it by email because I felt that something needed to be said to lift the aspirations and the hopes and the dreams of those of us who thought things were different. So I decided to uh, say what I said to my congregation. And this is what I said. I entitled it, God is in Charge. Good morning, family. For many of us around the country, and I dare say around the world, last night was an agonizing night to say the least. A night that began with great anticipation as it related to who would be our next president, slowly but surely turned to dismay and disbelief as we watched the returns from the various states flash across the television screen. Well, I can't begin to analyze what happened that eventuated now being led for the next 4 years by someone who has demonstrated time and time again that he's not fit to lead us. But I can say without equivocation that God is in charge. Our hopes were high, and they were bolstered by the posters and the talking heads who assured America that Secretary Clinton was a shoe-in as our next president. It had been seen from the outset of this process, however, that there was never anything about this election that was predictable. It is an understatement to say that many of us never expected what has become the final results of the presidential election. And we wonder now, with our heads in our hands, what do we do now? How are we to make it? I am comforted by King Solomon when he said from Proverbs 21 and 1, the Lord controls the minds of a king as easily as he directs the course of a stream. I believe that I can say with a great deal of certainty that Mr. Trump feels that he is the king right now, but I'm more than certain that he's controlled by the King of Kings. And whatever happens going forward will not happen without God's consent. None of us knows what lies ahead for us as a nation or as a people during these next 4 years. But we know that God holds the reins of time and eternity in God's hands. We know further that the Apostle Paul was right when he said, and we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose for them. From Romans 8:28. I am determined to trust God even though I cannot trace God. I will place my disappointments over this election at the throne of grace, and I will tell God earnestly, God, I do not understand why things have turned out as they have, especially in light of the optimism that we shared as a nation and as a people. But I know without a doubt, God, that you are in control. And I know that what happened has happened for our good and for your ultimate glory. I see through a glass darkly right now, God, but you see the beginning from the end clearly, and you are in control, complete control. Be faithful, God, for you've always been faithful. My encouragement to all of us is to keep our heads high and believe that God will do what God has always done, and that is never leave us or forsake us. We have been encouraged also by King Solomon when he said, and I quote, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not rely on your own insight. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your path," from Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. It does not matter who is in leadership in our country. God is our leader, and we will make concerted efforts to remain the people of God and conduct ourselves in ways that are acceptable to God. We will trust God no matter what. Should we become apathetic and discouraged in light of what has happened? The Apostle Paul answers that question like this, and I quote, "No, despite all these things, overwhelming victory is ours through Christ who loved us," from Romans 8 and 37. To God be the glory for the great things that God has done and will continue to do. Remember, in spite of what happens, God is in charge. God bless you.